Okay, welcome back. Okay, so we built our little movie with animated text using keyframes and add an audio. So on all your projects, I want you guys to have audio because it's way more interesting. So let's say I turn the audio off on those tracks and I hit play. It's kind of boring, you know, really boring. So I'm going to turn those audio tracks back on, and I think it makes it way more interesting. Okay, and notice it puts it in a loop. Okay, notice this green right here. That means it's rendered into the RAM on your computer. So if you see this building, if we get really complex, you're going to see this really stutter. But pretty much when it builds in, it means it's built into RAM and it's playing closer to real time. Okay, so let's say this is a finished product. This is number one, or what you guys do is going to be similar. So I'm ready to export this. There's two different ways to export. So if we just want this to be, we can use media encoder or we can use our render queue. So I'm going to show you both ways real quick to do this. So I'm going to do a file, export. I'm going to say add to render queue. So here's our render queue. So what we want to do here is we don't know where it's going to go yet. So we're going to say output to, not yet specified. We're going to click on that, and we're going to put this in the DME summer folder, and I'm going to say new folder. I'm going to call this exports, and I'm going to say create, and I'm going to call this day one export text animation 1. And it's an MP4 H.264 already set up, which that's good. So I'm going to say save. And I could change that to different formats right there. It's nice that they put the H.264 back in here because for a while there, you could not do a H.264 out of the render queue, but it's nice that you can do that now. We'll get deeper into this later. So really, all I have to do now is hit render, and it's going to build the movie, and you're going to hear a ta-ding when it's done. Okay, so I just exported that out as a movie that I could put on YouTube. I could take it to Premiere Pro. I could hand it to a collaborator, kind of whatever I want. So the second way that we could do this is I can get out of my render queue, and I'm going to go to my review text animation. Because remember, we have two different tabs here. So this is the one we're exporting. So the other way we can do this is use our media encoder. So you don't have to do both ways. You can just do one or the other. So I'm going to do File, Export, Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. So I'm waiting for Media Encoder to open. So Media Encoder is, so again, there's two different ways you can do this. I mean, it's not one way is better than the other. It's whatever workflow works better. And when we get later in the quarter, we're going to cover more workflows where you don't actually have to render it. You could actually take the After Effects file into Premiere Pro and let Premiere Pro be your renderer. And when we get into the workflow, you'll understand that more. So I'm waiting for Media Encoder to open up. The first time you got to be a little patient. It takes a little time to open up. You can use Media Encoder in Premiere Pro also. So this is the first time I've had this version of Media Encoder open. So I got to be patient because I got to wait for my project to pop up right here. And notice over here, I have different things or different formats that I can go with. And again, I'm just being patient for the workflow between them because it's not popping up yet. So there it is. So So there's my H.264. And again, I could do different formats if people wanted, if I was working with a client that wanted a QuickTime, um, and I could, a QuickTime ProRes 422, I could do that. So you got all these different choices here. So I'm just going to keep it on H.264 and match source, same set. The other thing I got to do is tell it where I want it to go. So right now, would you know where it's going? So I'm going to click on this right here, and I want to put it in my exported, in my exports folder, and I'm going to call this export text animation to encoder. And I'm going to say save. And all I got to do is hit this play button. And it will export it out. And it's not being the fast as I would like it to be. So if we were in a hurry, I might use the export using the After Effects render queue because it's a little quicker. And again, we could add a bunch of stuff to this where we let this render when we're going to lunch. I mean, because you don't want to sit around and sit there watching a window rendering and playing games. You know, your employer, you might want to be more productive than that. So I'm going to close out of Media Encoder now that that's done. I'm going to save our project, Command S. I'm going to close this to my work folder. And with my work folder, I got to find what I did with it. There it is, DME, Media Summer. There's my exports. And there's my 2 movies. So what's interesting is look at, they got file size differences. So I wonder if, you know, they're both MP4s, they're both the same length of time. So in theory, this should be better quality because it's a little bit bigger, there's more data there. So now I got a movie ready to go. Okay. And again, they're pretty much the same movie type of things, okay? I want to see if we can tell the difference. I don't know if you can. Okay, so that's kind of night one. I want to show you one other thing. So I want to kind of end it with, you're going to go to Canvas. You can upload it to Canvas or you can put it on the network. So if you go to your Canvas page, I'm going to go into my login settings, and we're going to go to our class, and I should have a digital media editing in here. There it is. I'm going to go to my assignments, and there's text animation in After Effects. So that's assignment 1. So you're going to do a short animation using text in After Effects, minimum 5 layers of text being animated, telling a short story of student's choice. Use 2D transform attributes and keyframes to animate the text. Export finished H.264 movie using Adobe Encoder and send movie to the instructor. I'm going to fix that real quick, and I'm going to edit it, and I want to include sound must be included in project. Okay. So we're going to go with that, and I'm going to save that, and we should be in good shape. Okay, so if you have any questions, we'll see you guys next week. So if on the assignments, you know, you guys, when you're in the student view, you should be able to click on it and be able to start assignment and submit it. So you can do it there. Or the other thing we can do, I'm going to quit out of Canvas. We can also go to the network, connect to server. If you're in the VA lab working, if you're home, you can't do this. You can bring it in on a thumb drive or something like that. So I'm going to connect to the server. I'm going to go to VACA. I'm going to create a new folder under here called DME Summer 2023, and I'm going to hit it. I'm going to put a blue color on it so we know what it is. We can kind of find it a little bit easier. So you can create a folder with your name and you can put the assignments in there. You can also back your stuff up in there too. So that's 2 ways you can hand your media in. So you guys have a great night and we'll see you next week.